committee, I have been working around the clock and with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to put together a serious, straightforward, and bipartisan bill. It's a continuing resolution, a CR, that will keep the government open and give Congress more time to pass all of our full year bipartisan appropriations bills. Let's be clear, this is a meticulously negotiated bipartisan bill that I am confident can pass the Senate, can pass the House if it's put up for a vote, and that President Biden has already said he would sign into law. In addition to keeping the government open, this bill also addresses very time-sensitive bipartisan priorities, like new dollars to replenish FEMA's disaster relief fund that is now running dry, making sure that our wildland firefighters don't see a pay cut, and giving our allies in Ukraine some of the support they need at this critical moment. This bill does not do everything we need on disaster relief or Ukraine or a whole host of issues that I do believe we need to address. But it makes a very important down payment on these priorities and will prevent chaos in the next few weeks and allow us the time to negotiate our full year spending bills. Look, the bottom line is that we have a Republican House, we have a Democratic Senate, we have a Democratic president. A bipartisan bill is the only way forward here. Anyone who thinks otherwise is living in fantasy land. And that includes the House Freedom Caucus members who are trying to take advantage of a shutdown to pass their truly dangerous and extreme partisan wish list. Now, some extreme mega House Republicans, as you know, have been trying to downplay what a shutdown would mean for families across the country. They've even bragged about shutting down the government. That's so crazy to me. I want to be crystal clear. If mega Republicans force a government shutdown, families and communities in Washington state and everywhere in our country are going to feel the pain. A needless shutdown will cut off parents and kids from childcare that they rely on through Head Start. Small businesses and farmers from loans they need to get by. Patients from NIH trials, community health centers, important youth mental health resources. A shutdown will cut off paychecks for our military, border officers who are stopping fentanyl, firefighters, and so many other public servants. There are more than 116,000 federal workers and military personnel in Washington state who are counting on the paychecks they've earned to make ends meet. And that is not to mention the contractors who work with different government agencies. And that really is the tip of this iceberg. A shutdown will be devastating for our economy and jeopardize our nation's credit. And by the way, a shutdown is far more costly than simply keeping the government open. It would cost our economy billions a week and put our nation's credit at risk of a downgrade. So I want you all to know I'm going to continue working around the clock to prevent this government shutdown. And I really hope that my colleagues on the House side will see the light and realize there is only one way out of this, and that is bipartisanship. And they put our legislation on the floor of the House to avoid a shutdown where I know it will pass. Look, people across our state tell me continuously, and I know they do not want chaos. They do not want to have to worry about whether the government is going to fulfill our most basic obligations and stay open. There is no reason we should not be able to pass our bipartisan CR and prevent a government shutdown. None. So that is what I am working very hard on here in Washington, D.C., every hour of every day to try and get our colleagues to cooperate and move this as quickly as possible. Thank you. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
All right, so we've got a lot of folks on the call, so just please remember to use the raise your hand function, and we'll call on folks as they do so. I see Orion with the Spokesman Review has raised his hand, so we'll go with you, and just remember to state your name and outlet before you ask your question. Thanks.
Hi, thank you for doing this, and thank you, Senator. I just got back from talking with some lawmakers on the House side. Congresswoman Gluesenkamp-Perez from Southwest Washington said, she'd like to see a clean CR along with a bipartisan commission to look at deficit reduction. Would you support such a commission? I know you have experience with things like that in the past.
There's a lot of people saying, I wish this had something in it that they all personally want. The fact is that we negotiated in the Senate on a bipartisan way what is in the Senate's continuing resolution, which basically makes sure that we stay open and our doors don't shut and all the hurt that I just described won't happen. And the other key significant programs that need to be extended to the same time period are so they are not shut down, as well as critical funding for Ukraine right now at a critical point to get them through the next few weeks, as well as critical funding for all of our natural disasters and the people that are suffering so much. We hear from Hawaii and other states. It is not the be-all, end-all legislation. No one is going to get their wish list, but this bill is bipartisan in the Senate. We had 76 votes to move it forward yesterday. This is a piece of legislation that can be signed into law, and we need to move it forward.
Thank you. Just to be perfectly clear, could you support some kind of deficit or budget commission?
All right, I have not seen any language describing that. I can tell you after years of experience, words on a paper matter when you talk about something like that, how much power they have, who's on it, how it's going to be decided, what the implementation of. I have not seen any of that language, and that's critical.
All right, thank you.
All right, and we have see Ryan Harris with Northwest Radio has raised his hand. So Ryan, if you want to ask your question.
Great, thank you, Amir, and thank you, Senator. Unfortunately, as you know, we lost Senator Feinstein today. So not only am I hoping that you'll share a few thoughts on your relationship with her and her legacy in the Senate, but I'm also wondering if the loss of that Democrat vote changes the dynamic as you're trying to get a CR passed.
Well, Ryan, thank you for that question. Senator Feinstein came into the Senate when I did the so-called Year of the Woman. And I know her personally as a friend and one of the most amazing legislators of my lifetime. She came to work prepared. She came to work to work. She came to work every day to fight to make sure that this country stayed strong, both domestically and globally. And she never gave up on a fight. She continued to work for what she believed on, whether it was making sure that we had gun safety laws or for LGBTQ rights or for women's rights that I'm so passionate about. Her voice will be missed and her friendship will be missed, and her stature in the US Senate as someone who worked with dignity and respect to all other people who worked here and across the country. I will miss her. Will her vote be missed? Obviously. I expect that the governor of California will make a decision soon when the time is right to fill her seat here. And I assume that that will, of course, make a difference again. But as far as the CR, let me remind you, we had 75 votes yesterday to move this bill to the floor. So we have significant bipartisan support, even without my great friend and colleague being here.
Thank you, Senator.
All right. And then Megan, I see your hand is raised. You can go ahead and unmute yourself. And if you can please just list your outlet.
Sure. Megan Lewis with KHQ Nonstop Local here in Spokane. Thanks for taking the time with us. Appreciate it, Senator Murray. My question for you is in regards to the military specifically, two questions. Fairchild here is slated for a couple deployments that are set to go out in the next month. How would this impact those missions and the things that we're doing abroad?
Well, certainly our military, along with all of our civilian employees and everyone who's part of the federal government, whether you're doing research at NIH or you're teaching kids with Head Start, I mean, across the board will be impacted by not getting a paycheck, including everyone who works here in the Capitol, of course. They will get back pay. That's a little comfort to someone who's living paycheck to paycheck, which is exactly why I have worked so hard to get this bipartisan bill to the Senate floor and passed so we can prevent a government shutdown. I keep them in my heart, their missions in my heart, everyone who's going to be impacted by that with me every day as I work on this to get it done.
What do you say to people, specifically those active duty families, who say Congress is once again playing politics with our lives?
I am not playing politics. I have a bipartisan bill to get us done. I'm working to get it done. I hope that everyone who makes casual statements like a government shutdown won't hurt will hear the voices of people like you just mentioned and what this impact will mean to them. That's what will help us get it passed.
Thank you.
All right, we have one last call. If any other questions, please use the raise your hand function. You can type it into the chat. All right, not seeing any other questions. That will conclude today's press call. This was recorded. It will be distributed live widely. Thank you everyone for joining today.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Recording stopped.